I said I was going to finish verse 4 today. And I will. I will. By commending ourselves as ministers of God in all things, in the sphere of all things, and the sphere of much patient endurance. Do you have any questions about patient endurance? And now, the next one is and thlipsesin. This is n plus the dative of sphere of thlipsis. We've encountered this word many, many times. We saw it in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 as part of the dying of Jesus, the necrosis of Jesus. And this is, affliction, distress. This is outer pressure. Sometimes is used for the whole realm of pressure. We saw it in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. We translated hard pressed because it was used with this word of closing in, of being crushed. So this had the connotation of being pressed from all sides, but we were not crushed. We are not crushed. We do not collapse. Here it is used differently. This is outward pressure with regards to, let me look at my notes so that I do not give you a different answer every single time. So we're going to translate it in affliction, okay? This is pressure from circumstances and situations. Outside situations that are tempting to produce anxiety in the soul. This involves people testing, obviously. This involves, people testing, system testing, also a little bit of disaster testing, close to disaster. This has to do with people that you care about, family members. If you do not care about these people, then most likely these tests will not be so difficult. You will not feel them so much. But because it involves people that you care about, family members, relatives, old friends that you have compassion about, that you might even have some pity towards or something like that, people that are asking you for favors and you have to make a decision because now they ask for a favor, now it takes part of your time away, etc. Just things that have to do with people, things from the outside going inside to produce pressure inside of your soul, anxiety inside of your soul. Don't give in to anxiety, by the way. Outside pressure is inevitable. Stress inside of the soul is optional. In other words, stress is the sin. Stress inside of the soul is sinful. Outside pressure is inevitable. Just because you're feeling the pressure doesn't mean that you already are sinning, that you're outside the divine power sphere, and therefore you need to use 1 John 1:9. No, not at all. I mean, use it if you're in doubt. Use 1 John 1:9 if you're in doubt. But just because you are feeling outside pressure does not mean that you are sinning, that you're stressed. It doesn't mean that. Just as temptation doesn't mean that you are sinning, also outside pressure doesn't mean that you are stressed. Again, use 1 John 1:9 if you are in doubt, just in case you did sin. Just name it and continue moving, applying Bible doctrine. So yes, this is affliction. We're going to translate affliction, whereas in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, we translated the verb as we are hard pressed. This involves, again, outside. It involves people. It involves things, circumstances. A little bit more of people. All testings involve people. We have anakais. In the sphere of anakais. And so this is also used as an impersonal verb, anakke, translated as it is necessary many times, or you must. Similar to the word they that we saw in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 15, I think. This anakkes also can be translated. You can see many of these things, they're almost synonymous. Crisis, compulsion. Because it comes from that impersonal verb, anake, it is necessary. It involves compulsion. People seeing the need to force you to do something. Compulsion. So in the sphere of compulsions, and this could be minor compulsions or great compulsions. People are trying to force you to do something. People seeing that they have no authority many times. They have no power over you, but they want you to be a certain way. You are in the system after all. You're in the divine system, the divine plan of God. And as a result, they're going to hate you if they're outside of the system. That's the number one the overall, the umbrella, the reason that's kind of the umbrella that covers everything. If you want a simple reason as to why they hate you, 1 John chapter 3, it says, do not marvel, they hated, do not marvel, they hate you. They hated the Lord Jesus Christ, they're going to hate you. Also, the Lord Jesus Christ, before he died, he said, they hated me, they're going to hate you. So that's the overall reason. Now, if you want the little tiny, little intermediate, little petty reasons, there are many of those. Sometimes they admire you so much for being in the system that they want you to be a certain way. They love you so much that they want you for themselves. They're jealous over you. Now, I'm not saying for you to go around thinking that everyone loves you. Stop it. And you're on your way to unreality. But yes, this can happen. Sometimes, yeah, to the extent that they admire you, to that extent they hate you because you're not a certain way, because you don't follow them, because you're not kissing ass to the boss or something like that. Keep in mind that to the extent that they love you personally or they admire you, to that extent they hate you when something does not go their way. That's why I say that personal love has no virtue. You love someone, but the moment they do something wrong, to that extent that you love them, you're going to start hating them. Personal love has no virtue. Personal love can easily turn into hatred. The reason why many people hate God, inside of their soul is a space, their soul is designed for truth, absolute truth, the truth of God. But if they deny this absolute truth of God, then inevitably they start hating God. Someone whom they're supposed to love, they start hating God. The reason why many people are going to be in hell for eternity. Again, in the sphere of compulsions, this can involve people forcing you to eat something. No, ándale, come, no eat it. And if you deny them a little bit of food, they break apart. They get mad. They become angry just because you deny them a little bit of food. You deny them a little bit of gift, a little gift here and there. They make an issue out of themselves, out of giving you gifts, out of playing around with the food. People use food for power. Can you believe that? It's a petty way of doing it, but yes. You make food for people, you start giving out things, and that's the way for them to have some power over you. Those are some neurotic types. But if you deny them that ability, you just deny them the ability to have a little bit of power and influence over you. And so that's the reason many times why they are forcing you to eat. They force you to do this, they force you to do that, they force you to go with them. And you are your own person. You are in the plan of God. And if God does not want you to be over there being forced to do this or forced to do that, you don't have to, okay? You are your own person. You only answer to God. And so, compulsions. We're going to translate in the sphere of compulsions. And what do we have thus far? But rather commending ourselves as ministers of God in all things, in the sphere of all things, in much patient endurance, in the sphere of patient endurance, in affliction, in compulsions. So these are plural, by the way, in afflictions and compulsions. And now we're finally going to be able to finish our verse with this word. En stenochoriais. This is a compound word. Steno, which means narrow. And then chora is space, room. So this is a narrow space, a narrow room. This can involve disaster. Your space, your options are being narrowed to the point that you're running out of options. We can translate this calamity. Many times we see it in the NIV translated as hardships. But what does hardship mean? Troubles as well, difficulties. Yeah, difficulties as well. This is the word also used for when an army, a foreign army, is besieging, is blockading a city and during the 5th cycle of discipline. I have here the passage, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 53. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 53. I do not have the verse, but we can easily type it down. Deuteronomy 28, 53. This is the passage about the 5th cycle of discipline. The 5th cycle of, okay. Here we are. I knew I was doing something wrong. So yeah, this is the passage of the 5th cycle of discipline. The 5th cycle of discipline is the collective discipline that falls upon a country, a nation, that does not execute the spiritual life, that does not advance in the plan of God. And I finally have my verse right here, 53. Okay, what is it? Because of the suffering that your enemy will inflict on you during the siege. This is that word matzor. And where's that word? Bematzok. During the distress is translated during the siege. A siege is when you are closed up and your options are limited. A siege of a city, with the result that there's a blockade and there's no food going in there. You're gonna have to find out a way to feed all your people inside the city for as much time as the siege lasts. So this could be collective in terms of military disaster, and we are overdue for a great military disaster, all of us in the United States. We might encounter a great disaster before or after, around the time of 2030, maybe before this. Right now, this whole Russian-Ukraine war is determining a lot as to what's going to happen in the near future. And Ukraine is doing a marvelous job using new technology, using drone warfare, and holding their ground. They're using now many ways to mess up the economy of Russia by bombing many of these Russian oil refineries, with the result that Russian oil, the prices are going up, they're skyrocketing, and so they're really causing great damage to Russia, doing the whole Western world a favor. The Ukrainians are great and valiant people, so you better respect them. For you MAGA types, for you Trump types, let me tell you right now, Trumpism is not real conservatism at this moment. I'm going to say it in your face. Trumpism is not real conservatism. To be voting for a felon, for allowing such great government and be persecuting people this way, to be with little vendettas here and there, that's not conservatism. Tariffs are not conservatism. You free market types, stop justifying yourselves. Just because you have hatred towards the other side, that hatred towards the other side, the Democrats and the bleeding heart liberals and all the political correctness types, yes, they're despicable, but that hatred should not motivate your political inclinations. You function with honor, with virtue, especially if you're a believer in the plan of God. You should function with honor and virtue if you decide to make decisions in the political realm. So yeah, Ukraine is great, valiant people, wonderful people, just as the Israelites. And so we have here two smaller countries right now at this moment, really holding their ground. Thank God for that. But this is going to determine a lot as to what's going to happen in the next years. We are long overdue for a war, and so this is the right time to go over Matzok, the siege, calamity. This could be collective disaster. This could be the fifth cycle of discipline. Because of the suffering that your enemy will inflict on you during the siege, the fifth cycle of discipline. We're going to suffer this. You will eat the fruit of the womb. As always, it happens that there's always great hunger and mothers start eating their children. You don't think mother can do that? Yes, mothers can do that and more. You will eat the fruit of the womb, the flesh of the sons and daughters the Lord your God has given you. Even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will have no compassion on his own brother or the wife he loves or his surviving children. You don't think a good family man cannot do this? Oh, he could do that and more. Just look at the SS. Have you read the book Out of Ordinary Men? And see how a lot of the SS troops of Hitler, they were made up of ordinary family men. Yes, a family man can do this and more. It will be all he has left because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of all your cities. This is the fifth cycle of discipline. Remember that. Okay, so I'm not going to go over what the fifth cycle of discipline says. You can always turn to Deuteronomy 28. There are 5 cycles. The fifth cycle one is the last one. This is where all the people are. Many people are killed, and many people, the survivors, are taken as captives, as slaves, to go off and work somewhere else. So also, let us not just remain with for Stenokorias is not just military disaster, it is also personal disaster. Something closing off on you, limiting all your options. Okay, so we have a translation. Now we can begin the next one, verse 5. But thus far, we have but instead commending ourselves as ministers of God in all things, in the sphere of much patient endurance, in the sphere of affliction, in the sphere of compulsions, in the sphere of calamity. You don't like the sphere? Okay. In much patient endurance, much affliction, no, in affliction, and compulsions, and calamities.